I'm here at Richmond Records with Spyder Whyte, the owner. I first met Spyder at a benefit for a musician, Dennis Sales, who had a horrific car accident. I'm just going to ask Spyder about his life in music and other ventures. He's played in a multitude of bands over the decades. Played in Vanquished, Rogue Syndicate, Five-Way Addiction, and many others. And I'm just going to see what he's been doing. So what have you been doing the last 5 years, say, Spyder?
The last 5 years, I eventually retired from my day job, which I was in for about 32 years, doing all my music on top of that, which was great. But it finally got out, and I was out for about 3 years. And that's when I started up BADITUDE rock and roll, which was, I was thinking to myself, what do I do? What do I, in relation to my music, where do I go? Do I continue with the bands? Do I do this? And then it just hit me one day, come up with BADITUDE rock and roll. And in a nutshell, all that was just, helping out bands where I can, non-profit, don't ask for money, but just more or less went and bought myself a factory, and then built that factory up so we could have bands in there. Let them come in, have a bit of a play. We did it as a rehearsal studio for a while. The plan was that then when someone could come in with a package deal and a band just starting off or something or other, and come in, do a live feed for about 40 minutes, not even that, about 25 minutes, bring some friends in, give it the atmosphere. We had a bar in the back there. Do all the light show, get all that footage for them, and give them some content, and more importantly, take some good photos. You'll always hear me talking about this with the marketing, with the bands. Take some great photos, interview them on stage, all that type of stuff, so they go away with a bit of a package deal. They've got live videos, they've got showing what they play, how they play it. They come out with some great photos, and then that was the whole idea of it. We did it a couple of little times. We did some band interviews in there. And then basically, in a nutshell, I ended up buying Richmond Records, which, I've said it before, which kind of put BADITUDE on the side for a little while, but which we're starting to get back into now. And basically just trying to help out bands where they can with the experience that I've had. And look, by no means am I, I don't put myself up on a pedestal when it comes to rock and roll. There's certain tiers in music, I always talk about it, certain tiers with bands and musicians and things like that, and I don't see myself up on any huge tier at all. I know where my level is, and it's very important you know your level. Strive to go further, obviously, all the time, but I knew my level, and I was just sitting well. Over the last 5 years I've been sitting well. Started off a new project with a band, Vanquished, who I met at the rehearsal studio. They were having troubles with, some guys, not turning up in the thing, and then they asked me one day, just, can you fill in on bass? And then I just mucked around with these guys, just, hitting just a straight out E note on me bass guitar, and said, put something to that, and we just gelled with original music, and which I loved. It was, the drumming was a little bit more flary, and the guitar was a little bit more stoner rock, stuff that I wasn't kind of used to. So then we ended up making that band in the Vanquished, which was, we ended up going around. We're doing a few good gigs here and there, a lot of support gigs, headlining a couple of gigs, and then got our EP out, which we did at A Sharp Studios, great blokes, and then put that out, got some great reviews overseas, got a little bit of, a little bit of a following over in Europe, as you do, Australian rock bands do. But that was fun. And then, it ended up coming, that band ended up coming to a rest, unfortunately. But
who was in the band?
That was Jimmy and Jerry. They were floating around in a couple of other bands from up the mountains and stuff like that. But two great musicians, and that was great to work with them. Very full on. It was a 3-piece, me on bass, singing, and but just gelled in writing the song. So check that out if you can. There's still a lot more stuff in the background. Maybe one day we might put it together. It'd be great.
So when you were younger, like when I was growing up, I was listening to the radio and records. Did you have anyone in the family that were musically inclined, or how did you get interested in music, and what were you listening to then, you know, in your teens, so,
well,
or even younger?
That's a good question in the sense that I've always wanted to tell that story. I touched on it once before, but when I was young, I was just a typical kid. I was into certain bands, you know, big Kiss fan and all that. We've mentioned that before, but my brother, he was older than me, but he was 21 and I was 14. But unfortunately, he passed around at that time. But he was a big collector of records, and obviously then I inherited his record collection and his big record player, one of those big buffet record players and everything, and I just thought to myself, I need to know who my brother was, in the sense of his music. We all love music, but that's what really got me focused on music in regards to these albums, the early stuff like Buffalo and the Black Sabbaths and Led Zeppelin and Lou Reed, Lou Reed rock and roll record, all these things that I wasn't really into, but I started getting into, and then all of a sudden I realised, where my focus, where my direction was with music and what I liked, and as any typical musician, when you start liking this stuff, you want to be a part of it. So we started picking up the guitars, and I did that with my great friend Rob Bodycott when we were young, and we just started picking up the guitars and we mucked around and we were playing with them and we're just hitting chords and everything like that. And then one day I got told off in high school for playing the guitar too loud during lunchtime, and I was atrocious too, just quietly. No wonder they told me to turn it down. But John Filardi, who great man and well known in the Sydney music arena, and he was prefect at the time, and he seen me that afternoon when he had a go at me because I was a bit upset with him having a go at me about turning my guitar off. But he come up and said, "Look, if you're learning to play guitar, I can teach you a few chords," and that he did, and that he was in a band, and then. Again, I don't know, I'm pretty known for this, like if I like certain musicians in bands, I will steal them. But I went along with this band and sung a few songs, like the AC/DC type of songs and all that, and then all of a sudden I just thought we need to rock this band up, and that was a matter of going with the keyboard player, the guitarist John, keyboard player Col Atkins, great keyboard player Col, and he used to have, when I say keyboard player, he had like rows, like a big L shape, keyboard here, 2 rows of keyboards on top. Very full on. So we did a lot of Deep Purple and all that type of stuff. But having said that, and I said this once before, it's like, we're just learning, and that's what we're just throwing into this because rock and roll, and especially like cover bands and original bands, were just going berserk out there. Every pub in the world was putting on a band. And we just started off with that, and that was where we really started making it was at the Vauxhall Inn, would you believe? And we were the first band, I swear to God on this, we were the first band to play at the Vauxhall Inn on the corner of Woodville Road there at Granville, Parramatta. And he wouldn't want bands on. I remember the big bloke who was running it, and we were going in our leather jackets and that and just pounding him, saying, we've got to play. And he goes, I don't want rock bands in here, he's all caused trouble. So we eventually got him around after annoying him for weeks on end, and then said, look, we'll play for a carton of beer, and if you like it, we'll be great. And the rest is history. We just rocked that place. We just packed it. Bikies come in there. We're playing on Sundays. We're playing on Fridays, and this venue just started off. It was great, and then we started doing places like War and Peace, the old Bloodbath War and Peace, which was great. And then we're doing Mardival, we're doing all these big places, and we're working hard. We're working all week, playing and all that, and I still only knew 4 chords. So you don't have to be a master musician to be getting out there and getting into it. So yeah, just always remember that, you know, like if you can do this stuff, get your balls together and get out there and get on the stage and more importantly get with a band. Bands is what's going to make you go further.
And what was the first guitar you ever had?
Oh, I don't know. My parents, when I started finding an interest in a guitar, my parents bought me something like from Kmart or something. Or I think the wah-wah was going backwards and tightening the strings and busting them, and then I don't know. I just got copies. I borrowed a lot of guitars. John Flaherty, who I mentioned before, he'd make guitars, and I just borrowed my way through guitars. I actually bought the guitar I was using in Parole was a Washburn, and I ended up buying that off the drummer. So I didn't really have a clue what I was doing back then, but it was fun. We were rocking out, you know.
Do you have a choice for amps at all?
No. I used to say this in Vanquished. I'm no high tech when it comes to guitars and amps. I'm a very simplistic plug-in, and that's my amp peg now bass guitar. But I'm telling you now, it's lugging that around, it's going to break your back. Get about 3 hernias like I did. But I was very, very simplistic in what I used. I was in a cover band there for a while. We played for about 5 years out on the road. We can talk about that later if you want. But I just had, a simple little head on that and a little 15-inch speaker box. And to this day, I've still got it. It's just covered in gaffer tape. It just got smashed. Same with the guitar case. Everything gets smashed, and trash. But that's what it's like when you're throwing these things around. But they all still work. But I never got funny with guitars. I see a lot of people that have got a lot of expensive stuff, and they're always worried, especially when you're going out to gigs, worried about too much about the equipment and things like that. I play on a $360 Gretsch bass, like a 3/4 Les Paul type of shape, but mate, I love it. And the sound I get out, I have a lot of bass players and all that saying the sound I get out, it's great. No effects, just plug it straight into the amp. I love those orange amps up at the Crowbar. They're fantastic. I love orange amps. You know why? Because they're simplistic. They've got 4 knobs on them. So all this equaliser stuff and all that, can't get it. It's just too much. But anyway.
So with the Vauxhall in, what were you doing after that band finished? Because obviously bands, you eventually go to another band, or people get married and things like that.
Well, with that band, we did our last gig at War and Peace. I'll never forget it. And we had they put us, gave us a big box of champagne and all that. We're on stage throwing it out the crowd. It was a big night. And I remember Kyle, the keyboard player, as I was telling you about those keyboards, I turned around with a bottle of champagne. I remember him going, no, and I went, yeah, and I think he told me later on he pulled his keyboard player out for the first time in about 4 weeks, which was covered in ants. So apologise for that, mate. But they were good days, and they were pretty full on. I tried to have a couple of bands, which I probably should have stuck with back then, because I ended up realising being a front man was my forte. But I tried out for a couple of bands there, but I never put the I never put 100% into it. I just went along, and one of these guys, didn't learn the stuff before you go there. Don't ever be that person when you're trying out for bands or you're in bands. Don't be the person that goes, yeah, I haven't tried those 2 new songs yet. Everyone else has. Everyone else has worked on it. Don't be that member of the band. Put 100% in. And I was getting knocked back from bands for that reason. And they were, those good players back in those early 80 days. And you'd know that, Greg. With the bands that were going around at the time. But and a lot of them are still going. Briggsy and all that. They're all still going. But after that, then I hung around a band called Surrender, and John was doing roadieing for them, and I eventually took that over, and that went on to some other things. We were doing a lot of roadieing for big bands like Uriah Heep and Motorhead, where we'd be supporting them. Surrender would be supporting them, and we were headlining a lot of those heavy metal gigs back in the day. And got to meet some really great people, and I was one of those roadies that used to run around in the cut-off jeans, and that look should come back. it's a great roadie look, man. It's the best. Hot stick a day, and but yeah, that was fun days. I used to carry a hammer around with me, and everyone used to ask me why I carried a hammer around with me, because people would go berserk up the front and pull the monitors over and things like that, and the file back and everything. So I used to run around smashing hands with that hammer. And I remember a time at Salinas, it was Surrender had a big castle. We had a big castle we had to put up, and I was up at one stage overviewing the thing, and the castle was just moving like this. There's always heavy metal people just moving. It's huge thing. If this fell, you know, people were going to die. So I ended up running into the crowd with that hammer, and surprised a few people, but it was fun. What am I saying? I shouldn't be telling you this. But that was good. Met a lot of people, you know. Met the likes of Motorhead, and worked with those English roadies who were really tough people. And spent a lot of nights sleeping in the back of trucks, using the blacks we use at the back of the stage and all that for blankets. And we blew up Salinas one night. That was one of the best stories that I ever had. Chris, our lighting tech, he went on to being the main lighting guy for the Sydney Opera House, would you believe? Lovely man, very crazy. But we were in there, and I walked past at one stage, I forget what band it was or whatever, but I ran past, we were staying overnight, we actually had rooms, and I went past and had a bottle of champagne, and I seen Chris, and he's just sitting there with his legs crossed on his bed, you know, and I went, hey, what are you doing, man? Come out, party, come on. And he goes, watch and learn, Spyder. And I'll never forget it, he picked up this little cognac or something, he lit it, he drank it, and he had these two wires, and as he picked it up, I looked around, and there was all these smoke bombs in the room, and boom, blew up the room, and really? We bolted out the window at Salinas there, and we're on the front awning with this bottle, just drinking it with all this smoke coming out and fire alarms going off, and it was great. That's rock and roll. I love that type of shit. But yeah, and then basically from there went on to just doing a bit of solo work. And my kind of like music career kicked off then, you know, when I say career, you know, like...
So you're playing acoustic or electric? Or bass?
I was playing that Washburn. I had a Washburn with DiMaggio pickups in it all, you know, all beefed up and everything, and I'm up there, you know, just about a year ago, playing on the keyboard player's amp as a PA. I was really doing it rough, you know. Made up my own lights, which... These massive big lights, you know, I just thought, you know, got to have lights, you know, you see people have lights, but I made these massive things, and I would blind the pub. As soon as I put them on, the pub would be going, oh, fuck it. It was just did it rough, you know, and I was doing gigs at, you know, Cowra and places like that, just on my own. I did that for years, just running around from pub to pub when I could. Made a lot of money. Coin was pretty good back then. You know, I think it is kind of still now. I don't think it's going to change, but it's good coin for the solo stuff. And then, yeah, I got into a couple of cover bands as well. Richter Scale got me kind of back in on guitar again. I was rhythm guitarist in that band for a while. We didn't really do too much. We played a few gigs, but it was good enough to get me back into it. And I enjoyed that. And then I went and watched another band one time, Australia's Final Notice, and there was a guitarist in there that I knew, and the singer didn't know me, and he said, you know, would you come along and critique our band, and which is fine. So I went along with a mate, and it was really good. We watched them rehearse. Me and my mate got drunk. We ended up in a fist fight, and then after that he said something along the lines of, you know, what was the band like? I said, you know, band's all right, but, you know, bass player could be a little bit better, you know, there's this and that. And he goes, well, who can play bass? I said, I'll play bass for you. And trust me, this is how all bass players start, you know. We, not all, I know that, don't hound me for that, but yeah, it's always a bass. Who knows a bass player? Well, I can play bass, so I didn't know how to play bass. But we went on for 4 years, that band. It was a very successful cover band. And why it was successful, and we were talking about this before, Greg, if you know, you ever want a bit of advice from yourself, for what it's worth, like, we were punching on, you know, as every weekend, and all you bands who can relate to this was, you know, you're trying to ring up, we've got a gig on the weekend, and, you know, someone's going, oh, it's my nana's birthday, and or something like this, or blah, 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 I'm taking the car in for a service that day, whatever. And it ends up being a pain, so we ended up, as I said, we'll get physical about it, and you could see the band was going to finish. But what we did was, we come up with a solution that every second weekend was the band, every second weekend was the family, and we stuck to that. We had a non-available date calendar, so we knocked back gigs unless it was really good coin or really good gig, and we all spoke about it. But that weekend was for your family, and give that back to your family. You know, I know how hard it is for people that, you know, every day it's, oh, I've got another gig on and out the door and out the door and out the door, because us musos love it, but you know, sometimes it might be a bit rough on the people that you love around you. But that ended up being so successful. We didn't do Sydney gigs. We did all rural gigs because they paid and they went off. I remember going into a pub at was it Mudgee? I went to a pub at Tamworth, and we got invited to play on the Country Music Festival, and we did that for 3 years. Would you believe? And I remember our first phone call, I said, we're not a country band, we're a rock band. They said, oh no, we need a rock band because everyone gets sick of the country, the young'uns, and they want a rock band. So we played there for 3 years in a row. And I remember seeing like big bars across the stage, and typical one of those country, like Rawhide, what was it, the Blues Brothers. And it was like, I'm going, what's this bar? This bar's a pain in the arse. I can't get my stuff on the you know, 10 o'clock that night, man. Thank God that bar was there, you know. It was just rocking. But we always went away every second weekend with about 3 nights, and it was always the same. Every time we'd be picking up each other in the car in the trailer, and it'd be like, yeah, let's go. They're gonna kill this gig, man. Yeah. And then when we're coming back on the Sunday or something, rather, we'd all be in the car like, oh wow, man, like really big weekends. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, if you can manage that a little bit better, just a little bit of advice. If you can manage that in regards to your gigs and all that, things work out really good. You know, we did that for about I got corrected the other day, 4 years, you know, every second weekend out to the studio.
Did you ever record with that band? Or?
No, we didn't. We're just a fun, you know, we're playing songs that everyone's still playing now, you know, but, and you can play them blindfolded, you know. And look, I'm a big one, and people that know me now, you know, drinking on stage is a big no-no with me. I don't like it for a lot of reasons. But back in those days, I was doing the same thing. You know, we'd finish a gig and I'd walk out. There used to be a saying, I think we had it on a T-shirt once, you know, did I drink all that? You know, because my side of the stage would be covered in jugs and schooner glasses and everything like that. But we played these songs so often and so much. Remember I said that to Steve King and Rose Tattoo one time. I said, yeah, I could play Rose, because I was in a Rose Tattoo tribute show. And I was treeing him up and going, I can play those songs blindfolded and drunk. And he goes, that's how I wrote them. For that reason, which was great answer, you know. And yeah, so that was fun. They were the simplistic songs that you can get away with, and you know, you don't have to be playing Comfortably Numb and Bohemian Rhapsody.
And everyone knows the song too, so.
Yeah. You know, as you can probably tell, I'm a big believer in keeping it simple. You know. Sometimes simple works, man, you know. And as I said, I haven't gone right up the tiers. Probably that's the reason. But I'm very comfortable, as I said, know where your place is in the tier, and just be good at that, you know. It's good to strive to go further, but, you know, look, we've got to be really sensible about this sometimes, and true to yourself. You don't want to get hurt. You don't want to get hurt with criticism. You don't want to get hurt with getting knocked back on things and things like that. So always know your lane, you know. People might disagree with me on that or something. I don't know. I don't really care. But just if you know your lane, things are going to be much comfortable for you in this industry, you know.
So that band lasted 4 years, and then were you looking for another band? Did you just disband, or?
No, well, I was doing my solo stuff, which turned into duos and trios. Did a lot of that. with all different guitarists and
Mick talks. And
yeah, and we tried everyone. And as I said, Bob Bodycott, who passed the other week, God bless him, but played with him a lot. So it was always just us. I'd be playing acoustic guitar and he'd be playing bass. And again, nice and simplistic. I never played any lead. We just did the chords. People loved it, you know. Had a Alex drugged out drum machine with us, and it's drugged out drum machine's been with me since the 90s when I first started, and I still use it to this day. Same machine, you know, it works. And I don't have pre-recordings in it or anything like that. I know what the speed is to the song, or I know what that sequence, when I say sequence, what that drum beat is, and I put that on. I do everything with my feet. It's amazing I haven't got cymbals on my knees, you know, but it works. And from then, you started to do a few bands that were my band. They were just, you know, an extension to the solo stuff. But it was Roadcase, there was Covernote, Roadcase, Covernote. Roadcase ended up being a pretty good band. Lowdown, then I started off a band called Lowdown, which was, again, pretty much all the songs I used to do in the solo stuff, but we rocked them up a little bit.
And where did you get with Johnny, the drummer? Johnny
Hayes?
Yeah.
Johnny Hayes was... He was a drummer in Five Way Addiction. And he was in the circle, the big family circle we've got going on here. And Johnny's a lovely man, and he's a musical tart, as I call him. Been in a million bands, and he was a drummer in Five Way Addiction, which I ended up becoming a part of. After that, I went and watched Five Way Addiction one day playing on a stage in the early days, and I remember saying to the person I was with at the time, I said, I'm going to be in that band. And yeah, we eventually went on. Five Way Addiction was probably the better band that I've been in my entire career. We did some pretty good things. We did 2 albums with the likes of, you know, Steve James. I always mention it, but you know, Steve's a ARIA award-winning, you know, producer, well known, works a lot with Screaming Jets, all those type of bands, and it was great. Again, that tier was starting to move up for me then, and doing those 2 albums and doing some pretty good gigs. Probably one of the largest stages I've ever played on, and audiences, all that I did with Five Way Addiction. It was a great band, very Australian rock orientated band, and I was the frontman in that, and I did for the first time in my career start writing a lot of songs, and I was picking up a lot of their songs with Bobby Russell, and he was writing them along with Carney, and I started to put the words to those songs, and I'd change them around and a little bit of the feel for the songs, and I eventually started writing a lot of songs on my own, which ended up on a couple of the albums, and I loved it. That was a new thing for me, so always try that out, you know. If try to write those songs, so easy to record nowadays, you know, on home gear and all that, and push yourself to see what you can come up with, you know. A lot of people, they get down now and they're using all these bloody different things. Just go in raw and just see what you can do. Yeah, so Five Way Addiction was probably the biggest turning point for me in regards to going up a level, you know.
And how long did that last for?
It lasted for, I forget how many years that lasted. But that was pretty good. We're getting good reviews overseas, Power Play magazine, UK, all those type of things.
Did you ever go overseas?
No, that's one thing I've never done. I've never toured. Got a lot of mates that do it, and there's a lot of my mates' bands tonight going over Avalanche and Simple Star and all them type of things, going over and doing these little Japan runs, which is a great thing, you know. It's getting all that experience for them, going out and doing the touring outside of Australia. It's one thing I've never done. It's one thing I don't really regret. You know, it's not a big deal for me. I've never been overseas in my life anyway, so, you know, to do it with a band would probably be an experience in itself. But
when you record, what studios were you recording? The same studio, or did you use different studios?
no, I've always stuck with A sharp. I think that's just through what's the word for it? Familiarity, you know, being there. I'm very comfortable in there. I've done a couple of interviews in regards to that, like when you're going in the studios for the first time, and nerves can play a big part of it, because, you know, you're going into a studio for the first time, and to do your work, and, you know, it's all new to you and everything, so it's good to get a lot of that stuff past you. And I was very comfortable there. I'd like to do some work with Davey Blues out here at Windsor. He's done a lot of work recently with Rose Tattoo and all that, so he knows his stuff. And so I'm looking forward to, I don't know, I've got a couple little plans in my head in making that happen, to step outside of the box and go somewhere, you know, somewhere else. So no offence, A-sharp, but yeah, it's just something for local, you know. Support the local people out here.
And what made you get into the Rose Tattoo? Was that a tribute band or a cover band? What do you call it?
Well, it's a
tribute to them?
Yeah, it was a tribute. It's still like going around, but it's one of those things. We've got a bunch of blokes in the musical family. It's one of those things where, you know, everyone's playing with each other all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you know, it's you know, like we were talking about Johnny Hayes before. You know, we've all been in the same bands together a million times. You know, and that's how the Rose Tattoo show started. But that was with a good friend of mine, Rob Carney, was a great slide player, one of the greatest slide players I know. It was kind of basically set up for Rob, you know. And after Five Way Addiction, he was the rhythm guitarist in Five Way Addiction. So we just basically wanted to get something together. I wanted to work with Rob again as well, and plus all the other boys. They're all great guys, you know, Grant and Mick and I. But yeah, again, I had a bit of a stroke a few years ago on a fishing trip, and I was in stroke ward for about 5 nights. But I lost a lot of feeling in this hand, and my right hand, would you believe? So, whereas I can still pick up things and touch things, I've got no feeling. So when it comes to guitar pick, it's kind of freaky. So, and that's what happened with Vanquished, and that's what happened with me playing guitar. And of late, it's been getting worse. So my guitaring days, and probably this is the first time I've mentioned it, my guitaring days are over, I think, for now. So unless something happens, but
and you're not going to stay with singing?
Singing, a good friend of mine, Rose Carlio, pulled me aside a little while back and said, Spyder, you'll always be the front man. You should be the front man. And she's right. So I'm actually working with a band. I won't mention who they are, but I'm working with a band at the moment up at Queensland, and who have you know, some pretty good musicians in that band, got from Adelaide and all that as well. So we're looking forward to getting together at the end of this year, and they're a band, they're pretty well established, got a few albums and that out, so we're looking at doing some new stuff with me, and I'm really going to look forward to that, going to put 110% into that.
A small tour around Sydney, or are you going to Queensland?
Well, I think it's just a matter of getting the recordings and all that done first, and then time like making that announcement, so it's a little bit fresh, you know. There's no animosity there towards anyone else or anything like that. It's just a fresh start. So I think it's a fresh start for them. I don't know these guys really, but they've approached me, and yeah, it would be good to get into something that they're my style of rock, man. I just love it. There's, you know, harmonicas in it and everything like that. So I'm looking forward to that, and I think that's going to be good. I'm actually getting back into the gym so I can get stage fit. There's another piece of advice: be stage fit.
And you're also a few of the Australian music industry people, aren't you? On a committee of one.
Oh, not so much. No, not so much on the committees. I am with Music Australia and all that. I was a committee member in that, but at top like that fell through a lot, and I'm very still supportive of that. I wanted to be an active member of that actually.
And what do they do?
Well, it's a musicians' union, which is set up by the government and all that, and so they're out pushing for a lot of things for musicians, which is good. I've done a couple of submissions to them in regards to live music in venues, things like that. They're really open to that. Anyone can join. If you are a musician, get out there and get into it. We might put up some links later on or something or other. But they're good people. The only reason that Top Light died in the butt for me was a little bit. It was obviously the shop. The shop's been 120% for me for the last year and a half. So putting the effort into there. But
it's a great shop.
It's the best shop in the world.
How did you actually come about to get it? Did you know the owner?
No, I was funny story. I was driving past with Laney, and I was pretty much into the BADITUDE stuff, doing the interviews. And I drove past, and Laney goes, "Look at that shop! How cool's that shop?" So we pulled over and we come in, and as soon as I walked in the shop, I didn't have to say it. I said, "Oh, this is cool. So you mind if I do an interview?" So if you actually look up BADITUDE, you'll see me doing an interview with the previous owners, and that was fun. And then I think it was, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years later, something, I sent it up for sale and thought, I'm going to buy that. I fell in love with the place then, and now we've Top Light making it our own, which is good. There's a lot of things going on. We've got the backyard happening again now, where we're putting on live music out there once a month. I'd like to make that a lot more. So we're just doing, getting the feel for that to see how it's going to go.
And where's that advertised so people can look it up?
It's just on the Facebook. And I've got a new website coming out, so it'll all be on there. But
for this shop?
For the shop, yeah. So I don't want to, probably shouldn't be saying this, but I don't want to advertise it too much. It's like the shop. I don't want to advertise it too much per se, that I'm going to get 200 people out. In fact, that's going to happen, but way too many people that it becomes enjoyable. Not enjoyable, I should say.
No, you're not intimate.
Yeah, I like that. I like that intimate feel, and by no means you to stay away from it because I said that. Make sure he's gummy, but yeah, it's just I'm just testing the waters at the moment, and we've got one coming up this Sunday, and I'm looking forward to it. I've got a couple of good friends coming up to play guitar, so.
So is it a thing where anyone can get up and play, or is it you actually have all the musicians that you want that are playing each week?
Well, I'm not going to advertise it as a jump and jam. I don't want I don't want to walk out the front and there's 200 Elvis Presley impersonators from here to the railway station waiting for their turn. So nothing against that. Again, just trying to be funny, but yeah, it's a thing of if you're pretty good at what you're doing and all that, come along, you can have a go. Just get up there. That's what we're all about, So I just don't want to turn it into a jump and jam. There are people that are on for certain sets and all that, but if you come and approach us and you've got your guitar, we've got the amps all set up here, so you can come up and have a hit. Not a problem in the world.
And for people who haven't been here before, what's the shop about? What do you actually have here?
Well, we've got records, obviously, but it's a lot of pre-love stuff. We don't deal in new records. I've still got to talk to the likes of Sony and things like that about doing that, but it's all big money, and for money to be sitting around in the shop, I do have to make a move at one stage in regards to our direction and where we're going. At the moment, I'm looking at getting in some more, doing some stuff with Auto Technia, who are really good to me. So we can have stuff that's affordable. I like having stuff that's affordable here. We do have collectibles when we do buy records and all that. We do end up with the collectibles. So we've got them like in the collectible section. We've got the B room, which is all the cool stuff, and then we've got the C room, which is all your nostalgic stuff and your classical and all that type of stuff. But we do rely on the public. The public are always constantly ringing me saying we've got some records and we've got some CDs. Do you buy them? I love looking at them. You park them up round the back, come and let me know. I'll come and have a look. We'll go through it and all that type of stuff, what have you, you know. But I just bought it recently. I just bought a really good collection of records from a man who's been collecting for years. He bought his stuff from Utopia like back in the day when it first opened. So, and I'm so appreciative of it because I knew he had bigger prices. You know, what was the word for it? Bigger offers. But he wanted to come here because he knows it's going to keep the business going here, and he loves our passion for music here. So I was really appreciative of that, Dave. It was really, really good. So, but yeah, so you have to pick them up because I'm really scared to pick them up, to be quite honest. But the shop just runs. It's not making, you know, it's not breaking records. But like just this morning, you know, we got a guitar in a young girl's hand, and
I saw her when I was walking in, the pink guitar.
She was just so happy.
Oh, she was. She was out here saying, "You should have brought this for me earlier, Mum."
Oh, you know, and that's what it's about. You know, if I can get that once a day, that's made my day. You know.
And the guitars behind you too.
Yeah, I do Hayes guitars here. Now they're a good guitar, but as I said, I don't make out here that we're big sellers, you know, of Gibsons or anything like that. I know plenty of people in the industry around here, you know. OC Music of Windsor, High Street, Penrith, you know, the Guitar Factory at Penrith, all those type of guys. They're all good mates of mine. Not a problem in the world, you know. And as soon as someone's, I think it's a little bit out of the league of the shop here, I'll direct them to those places. Not a problem in the world. I'm not in competition with anyone, you know. So hopefully everyone can work together, you know. So as long as the people, and I know this sounds corny, but as long as people are getting what they want and they're happy, everything's good. You know?
Is the Hayes a Melbourne guitar?
No, they don't give away. They're a Chinese brand guitar.
Oh,
but if but you know, and I say this to everyone. Like if you told me it was a Chinese guitar 20 years ago, you know, you'd run like hell, you know. But they've really come a long way, you know. I've seen the pictures of this factory. They make lower end Fenders in Ibanez, you know, so the lower end stuff. So they're a good guitar. But as I said, I cater for the beginners, and I know I wouldn't sell crap guitars, you know, especially people coming up or intermediates, you know, and people that have got old guitars but they want to, you know, upgrade to the thing they've got. You know, I do services on guitars here that are just should be in the bin, you know, but it's all fun. It's all fun. I'm, you know, learning myself. I'm learning myself as I go. You know, I was up last night watching buddy, you know, set up guitar, buddy. I love it, you know. Everyone always learning, constantly learning all the time.
And BADITUDE rock and roll, how did that come about?
Well, as I said, I was just bored. Just wanted to do something with music. And I was sitting there one day thinking, you know, what am I going to do? What am I going to do after I retired, you know, from a government job for 32 years? And then I thought I'll do what I love best. And it's like anything, when you find the job that you like or that you love, you know, especially at my age, you know, I'm 63 I think it's next week. But it's good to have something you love, you know.
And what does it involve?
Well, it's just helping with promotional packages. So I went and did my diploma in music business at TAFE there, which was good. That was an experience. There's another thing, you know, if you're into your music, you're into your sound, or you know, all that type of stuff. Go and do these courses. You know, it was for free. You know, the government paid for it. It was great. And you know, I appreciate, you know, people not having time for things like that. Make it work, but you know, that was a great experience. I met some great people in there. Some great, you know, the drummer from Ted Mulry Gang. You know, he was teaching there. Just meeting all these young people.
Herbie say that.
Oh, Herbie, yeah. And yeah, well, he's playing with Steve now. Ted Mulry
I've
Gang's
been
back.
filming.
Yeah. Great guys. Hopefully get them down here to the region. But that was fun because, you know, there's all these young people around, there's hipsters. My class was so full, so full of diversity in music, you know. There was, how can I say it? You know, as I said, hipsters. There was, you know, people that, you know, should be playing up a Blind Bray and, you know, all this type of stuff. You know, I don't even know the genres, of course, but there's so many genres nowadays of music. It's not funny, but it was good. It was great, and we all loved each other because we all got that one passion. You know, one passion is that music. You know. And we all helped each other and got through it.
And so what do you do with it? Do you record people or...?
No, well, the whole idea was to start all that off. But as I said, I'm still... How BADITUDE sits at the moment is that people still ring me up because I advertise it through the shop. People will say to me, if you're a soloist or a duo or something or other, or I might even hunt them down too, you know, and just give them my idea. What do we call it? My mates will get the shits when I say the Spyder theory. You get a couple of beers of me, and I'll start screaming Spyder music theory at you. So, but it's just been helpful, and as I said, you know, I know my lane, but I've done a lot. I've done a stack, and whether it's been at not at that type of level, so be it. But I do know my stuff when it comes to, you know.
So you're helping musicians how they go about getting in the music
exactly.
industry.
So more so on your marketing.
Work.
What's, you know, some good ideas to keep bands going. All this type of stuff. You know, like people. You know, I get guys that are really good musicians. Like they're really good, or you can see that they are going to be great. You just know it. You know, you can just pick it. You know from their attitude. You know from their style. They mightn't be brilliant at it now, but they're young, or they're progressing their way. They haven't been on stage before and things like that. But you know, once they do that, their confidence is going to grow. Their voice is going to get conditioned. Their guitaring is going to get better. And once you get all of that, then all of a sudden you've got a great show. But a lot of these people, I see them, and they'll be asking for gigs, you know, and you can get gigs, but I can't give people gigs or promote them, give them gigs, if they haven't got the bodywork behind it, you know, because the venues want to see that, you know, who am I putting on? And just recently, a good mate of mine, Dave Carling, we were in that type of position. One of the greatest singers I know. I'm really proud of him. He's really good. And he started up his solo stuff. And I had some corporate event organisers, pretty big ones, ring me up the other day for some stuff down at the new airport and all that type of stuff, and asked for recommendations for the first time. So my reputation was on the line too. And everyone I was trying to give them, really, some of them did, some of them didn't, had the marketing behind them. And these guys were like, oh, man, we can't put these people on at this level on your say-so. I don't blame them for that. But they did with Dave. I quickly made him up with a little bio, some pictures in it, ChatGPT, bloody, you know, greatest singer in the world type of stuff, and sent that off to him. Still not enough, but it was enough to get him through. And they love him. They absolutely love him. They rang me up and said, mate, the guy's a legend. We're going to put him on again, things like that. So that's, I'm not saying that's me doing that, but that's the type of help that I like to give these people and get them off the mark, you know, and get them to a place, as I said, where they're more confident with their stuff, you know. But so we can promote it, and I've got to tell you, so I'm happy with it, you know. If I jump onto something, I like to see it go well, you know.
And besides him, is there anyone else, younger person that you can see that you're helping and that they're going to really go for?
Oh, young Lachlan, who's around here. He's at Tamworth at the moment doing music theory. I think he's doing top of course up at Tamworth at the moment. He's going to be great, man. He's going to be. He's so. He's 16, man, and he's so confident, you know, and he's got the gear, and I think he's doing some singing lessons and all that. And I heard someone say the other day at a venue where he played or something like that, and they said, oh, you know, this or that, well, you know, something. This guy's 16, man, and he's got it. I know he has, you know, and but as I said, once that voice gets conditioned and once everything's going to go, man, they're going to be biting the bit to get him back in again, you know. So then there's young Ash Wild, you know, he's a local young bloke around here. He's just brought out his own single. Like, he's still in high school and I just brought out his own single. Rocking and rolling, doing a lot of work with Davey Blues. Davey Blues is a lovely man, and helping him out. So, and he's going to be great, you know. Who else we kind of like looked after here? James Van Hest, he's another one. He was, I used to see him a lot. Started mucking around with him in an AC/DC tribute show a little while back, and this guy is one of the best Angus Young impersonators I've ever seen, and like, he is so on, it's not funny. Everything's got to be perfect, and he's started off his own stuff with No Bull and everything. Great band, and I helped him out first off. You know, he had his business cards, and they went that crash high, and we started getting him some decent looking business cards and all that type of stuff. Again, you know, all cred to them. They're all pushing it. His mum helps him along and all that type of stuff. But I just try and help out where I can, you know. And especially when he was getting his band together for his own band, I had a little bit of input into that where, you know, I told him he's the ultimate front man and guitarist. It's got to be his band, and his band's got to know that, and his band's got to basically worship him from behind. I don't care what anyone says. You know, that's how I fell in love with Elvis. I never really liked Elvis Presley. Didn't really get into my thing until I was about 35 or something or other, and I watched a live video of him, an old tape one day, because there was nothing else around, and blew my mind. It blew my mind how good that man was, but more so how his band was so much behind him, and adored him. You know, that's at that level. But when you've got a band working behind you like that, you know, the doors are going to open everywhere. You know.
Was his guitarist Scotty Moore? Isn't it?
Nah.
No. Trying to think who he had. He had a really hot guitarist.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know. Yeah. But he plays in. I think he does Thunderstruck now. He plays the Angus in that. Yeah. They're getting Ross. You know, Ross up all the time. See, love him, mate. Love
Turn
him.
the mic off.
Nah, he's great, man.
Yeah.
I love him. But he's But yeah, it's, you know, that's where that is. If I can help out with anything, you know, I'll try and put some gigs on. You know, we just had Will pop in there before from Great Gumpson at venues. That's another thing. Venues come up and ask for a bit of a hand. We had R.G. McGee's got a new manager the other day, Ryan, and you know, he walked into the shop and he was from Bathurst and said, you know, how do we get bands in here? So, you know, I said, look, between me and you, mate, we can start this off, and we've already kicked it off. Pub's rocking.
Oh, that's great.
You know, once a month. So we've got another venue up and running, you know. Again, that's not me. That's not me doing this, but it's just, I like having a little bit of input into it, you know, and just seeing what's going on, you know.
Well, it helps with someone that knows what they're talking about too.
Yeah, well, it's just, I think from a local's perspective, it helps with him, you know, finding the right bands to put in there, you know. It's like strip joints. I've said this before with venues. Used to go, I remember Prospect Hotel down there back in the 80s, put on strippers, you know, and they had all these quality strippers in for the first time, got all the crowd in, all the boys every afternoon, Friday afternoon, yeah, blah, 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 and then started to deteriorate, you know, and yeah, probably shouldn't be saying that, but the quality, you know, all of a sudden you know, girls on the nod, you know, and the heroin and all this type of stuff, and you don't do that with bands too, you know. You don't put on quality bands and then start, you know, bands coming in saying, hey man, we'll do it for $200, you know. Well, okay, well, you get a $200 band, and you only need to pitch off your crowd once and they won't come back, you know. So always, that's my thing, the venues too, always keep up that quality, you know. And having said that, you know, like the bands, what we miss, and you'd know this yourself, Greg, what we miss is that, you know, situation where original bands can get out there and play in these pubs. You know, I've been to plenty of original bands, and especially Vanquished, you know, towards the end there, the last couple of years. Very hard to get in, unless someone's actually putting on something and hide the venue, or you know, these heavy metal nights or rock nights and things like that. Very hard. Tate's, you know, up Windsor here, we're putting on, you know, some original bands and all that type of stuff, and have the jumper jams, all that type of stuff. It'd be good to see that back happen. It's never going to be the same as it was in the 80s, you know, never. So, but no offence to those people nowadays, but you could, every single pub is putting a band on, you know, and you could really throw your stuff out there, you know. But yeah, I just try and help out there, you know.
One last thing, you ever thought of managing a band? Or a musician, or mentoring? Well, that's what you're doing after you're mentoring.
Yeah, I like me mentoring. I don't particularly want to get into managing. I've never liked managers. I'm not into agents. I'm not into. I've said this before in interviews, and it's a matter of, I don't want to get people offside, but I don't like, for me to be doing that, I'd have to at least start taking money somewhere to make it feasible, and I don't want to do that. So, you know, I don't want to be asking 10%. I don't want to ask them 20%. I don't want to be putting on, you know, renting venues out to make money on top of it. You know, I'm not trying to pull at heartstrings here, but like, if I get $2,000, $4,000 left over from a function we put on, we'll put that into the next one. You know, money in musicians' pockets, man. That's where we've got to go. Money in musicians' pockets.
All right. Well, thanks very much for that, Spyder. I know that you've been sitting here for an hour now.
It's been an hour, has it?
Yeah. So thanks very much for telling us about your life.
If you're still watching this, man,
I really
you deserve a
appreciate
medal.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because that's why I'm doing it, because I want people to know what it was like, because it will never be like that again.
No.
You know, if you're starting from scratch, like you said, if you're original, you're going to find it hard to get a gig.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at it again I was only looking at it again this morning. Someone, I put a thing up with the old gig guide, you know, from the Daily Telegraph. Yeah.
On the street.
And you have a look at the gig guides back then, you know, and it was like, oh my God, man, do yourself a favour if you haven't done it. Have a look at them and it'll freak you out. You know, In Excess is playing here, Midnight Oil's playing here, the Vinyls are playing there. You know, and all these other bands like Ward 13 and all that.
5 and 6 days a week too.
Yeah, all the time. You could just see all these bands constantly.
Bonanza Room.
Yeah. And enjoy the experience of those old places too, you know. They were some of those venues were great. I love a divey venue, you know. The divier the better, you know. Go into the toilet and toilet seats are off and there's, you know, riding everywhere and whatever. Love it. You know, doors off, who cares, you know.
And the place is packed.
The place is packed. Because we love it. It's rock and roll.
All right, well, thanks very much for that, Spyder. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
And mate, just an appreciation for what you're doing too, man. It's really good, you know.
Thanks.
I kind of like do the same thing, and it's all about getting it out there, you know, and letting people know that we're out there, you know, trying to give a bit of a hand. So feel free to touch base. Not a problem in the world.
Yeah. That was great. Thanks very much.
Thanks, boss.